when we find human skeletal remains, there are two ways we can interpret the human skeletal remains. So
pottery, there is pottery, a link between pottery from India and Southeast Asia.
Yeah, it was very good and very informative for all of us who are not archaeologists.
Worry that how does the taphonomic condition of the remains reflect the local burial environment, and
we ourselves should be the the clue to everything that has gone before us.
Good evening, all. Welcome to another episode of Kalinga History. Today we have Dr. Veena Mushrif Tripathy as our speaker, and today's topic is titled Bioarchaeology, Human Skeletal Studies to Understand Past Population, Case Studies from Odisha and West Bengal. So, welcome, madam, to Kalinga History. I would request Sri Shubhendra Mishra to give the introduction of today's speaker. Over to you, Shubhendra sir.
Good evening. Mrs. Veena Mushrif Tripathy is a researcher, academic in physical anthropology and bioarchaeology. She has been affiliated with the Deccan College Postgraduate and Research Institute, Pune. Her work specializes in studies of human skeletal remains, analyzing ancient bones to understand health, life, disease, and demography of past populations. She is credited as an author of the book Human Skeletal Remains from Chalcolithic Nevasa, Osteobiographic Analysis. Her research includes publishing many scholarly articles in national and international journals on paleopathology, skeletal biology, dental anthropology, etc. She has been involved in skeleton examination projects in various archaeological excavations across India. For example, analyzing skeletons found near villages in Odisha. Through skeletal biology and bioarchaeology, our work helps reconstruct the lives, health, disease, and demographics of ancient and prehistoric Indian populations, giving scholars insight into human history long before written records. Her combination of archaeological excavations and anthropological forensic analysis bridges two disciplines, archaeology and human biology, which is vital for understanding cultural practices, burial rituals, public health history, and migration ancestry. By publishing in national and international venues, she contributes to global scientific understanding of paleopathology and to anthropological scholarship from India, a region with a rich but documented ancient human history. Now I welcome Mrs. Veena Mushrif to start her talk.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mishra, and thank you to the organizers who called me to give this talk. And really, it is a different experience. I think so. I will be able to make some points about my subject, and I hope that it will be informative. So, as I told you, like my work is on bioarchaeology or studying human skeletal remains from India. I have worked few sites from Orissa and especially the eastern part of India, West Bengal and Orissa. So bioarchaeology, I just want to say what is bioarchaeology. Bioarchaeology, or is it it is also called as a osteoarchaeology. Initially, bioarchaeology or osteoarchaeology was considered to be the study of human skeletal remains uh, uh, from either it is a human or other animals. So it was combining everything like human skeletal remains from animal and human. But later part of a later part of discipline, it was considered that the bioarchaeology means studying human remains from the archaeological side. And identification, recovery of skeletal remains from the field to the lab. So we study the labs, we study the human remains in our anthropology lab. And the aim of bioarchaeology is to contribute archaeological interpretation of a fresh perspective. So what is bioarchaeology is like, it is considered that human cannot be studied in isolation, whether it's a present or past. Because it is always interacts with the environment. So you have to consider environment as a very important factor, whether it's a cultural environment, physical environment, or anything. It's a main, the human is a part and parcel of that environment, and we interact with our environment, and we change the environment, and the environment changes us as well. So studying all these complications and studying this is a part of bioarchaeology. And the first and foremost, bioarchaeology and archaeology discipline, it requires a firm understanding of the contextual aspect of site formation from individual burial features or communal ossuaries or mortuary analysis of burial patterning across time and space. So we see the remains, whether it's a communal means mixed burials, or whether it's a proper burial system for the individual system. So how we work with that bioarchaeological analysis is like, the simple thing is X-ray, like radiograph, what we do in for ourselves also, like when we are having certain problems like any fracture or anything, so we do the radiograph. Similarly, if we find something in archaeology, so we do the first thing is the how the bone hits reacted to that pathology or that problem. So maybe it's a infection, or whether it's a nutritional deficiency, how the bone is actually reacting to that. So X-ray is the bare minimum we can do it. And then there are like more scientific approaches are like reconstruction of the diet using a stable isotope. Some like these strontium or nitrogen or this lead. These are the certain isotopes we do not do it in our institute because it requires very highly sophisticated labs. So we collect the sample, whatever sample is required for these scientific analysis, and we give them with our own problems. Like, okay, we want to say want to study the ancient diet of this particular population, or we want to see that whether it was a local population or it was migrated from somewhere else and ended in that particular site or that particular area. So what exactly their diet, what exactly their composition and other thing. So for that we do this kind of we give the samples for the isotope analysis. Then there is something called as a genetic analysis or ancient DNA. We give samples for these labs in either internationally recognized labs in India as well as abroad also. Like I have having collaboration with Harvard University, where Harvard University, where they are doing ancient DNA with Dr. David Rai. Here also in Lucknow, BSIP is there. So these certain labs where we are trying to establish these DNA analysis, because in Indian context, finding a DNA is ancient DNA mainly is a very it is very difficult because our climate is not very good in good preservator of collagen, where the actually the DNA is preserved. So it is a problem with the Indian data. Hardly we whatever DNA analysis we have been positive, it is mainly from the medieval time, but medieval or maybe hardly 8th 9th century AD. We only one case in Rakhigadi from Harappan context, we have able to get one DNA out of, I think so they have sampled more than 30 bones, and out of that only one sample gave the positive DNA. Still there is scope, at least we are trying that we should have some good understanding, because India is a very complex society. We are having so many migrations from different times, different areas, and then we are having genetic admixture with many populations. Our society is segregated with all these caste, subcaste, then tribal groups and other things. There are so many social, political, and groupings are there, and that's why it becomes more complex. Our DNA or our genetic history is more complex and more problematic in a way, if you say. So that is the thing. But we are trying to get some DNA. So we always try that we should send a sample for DNA analysis. So that is a very upcoming field. It is not. And then we try to do other studies, like we are having the tartar, like the food particles which is stuck in our teeth. We try to understand the food of that particular individual doing the chemical analysis. So many things contribute to our research. What we do in our lab is creating a basic data set for the comparative analysis. So just going before talking about the what we do, I just want to give you a brief idea about what are the how much skeletal remains are there in India. So if you see here, these are the these are the maps created in 2015. There must be some 10 more site is included in these dots. So these dot represents sites where the human skeletal remains are being found in India. So if you see the Neolithic, Chalcolithic, that area has a lot of skeletal collection, more than uh, 45 sites have given. And then there are Mesolithic, means somewhere around 8000 BC, or so that is the site. Or if you consider the megalithic has the largest collection of the human skeletal remains, and we are having the historical chalcolithic. So these are the certain sites, number of sites we are getting from the different region, and these represent that unfortunately, India has, from since the independence or little bit before independence, Indian scholars were excavating human skeletal remains, and there are more than 200 sites have produced human skeletal remains, around 200, more than, I think so. I'm just giving a brief 200. And out of that, hardly 60 skeletal series have been anthropologically studied. Most of the skeletal data is either missing, we do not exactly know where they are being kept, how they are being kept, and what is the current situation of that material. And whatever studies were done, it was done some of the like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, or certain sites, Takshila, other, like they were studied much earlier, like before 1970s. Now with the new recent advancement in the field, we need to restudy those material which is actually missing, which is not yet been done. So there are many problems with studying Indian sites from anthropological studies. There are administrative problems, there are academic problems, there are uh, miscommunication, and there are so many issues which which limits our analysis of the human skeletal remains. Just to give you brief how this is the supine position, like this is the primary burial. This is from Saraina Rai, and this is from the, like, these are the three individuals buried in one pit, burial pit. This is a crouched, means it's a folded, so the crouched position. This is child lie, supine burial. This is seated burial from Balathal. There is one site in Udaipur. So different types of burials are being found in India. Like this is from Farmana. So you can see this is typical Harappan burial, or this is also Harappan burial. This is from Lothal, where two individuals are buried together. So you can see there are good number of specimens are found from Chalcolithic, Neolithic, Chalcolithic context, and as well as from the Harappan context. Coming to so this one from, and these are from the historic period. Like this is the site from Balupur. We will be talking about it in later more detailedly. This is from Nagaland. This is a Jotsoma. This is from Kodumanal. How the individual is being, in the supine position, but in the folded like kind of a Padmasana posture, but in a sleeping, not in the standing, like sitting position, what you saw in the Balathan. Here, this site is called as Sanjan, where this is a site where first Parsi, which fled from Central Asia, which came here and settled in Gujarat. So they build up their dakma. Dakma is if you are aware of it, they create a kind of a structure where they tower of silence, what we call it as. They open, and on the top they keep the bodies, and after some time they push the whatever is remaining after some time, because they believe that the bodies should be given to the natural elements. So all these vultures and other animals, they kind of eat those flesh and other thing, and whatever remains, they put everything in the central well, and this is the central well actually. And in archaeological population, we do not know what this population, which belongs to which population. In this, we are very sure that this every bone which is entered into this belongs to Parsi population. So we excavated this and we studied these bones from here. It was very interesting. Next to that, there was a local cemetery. We call it as a Koli Khadi cemetery, which was very close to it. But when we studied the dental morphology, when we studied the morphological features, because they are more genetically controlled characters, they are given a very different picture. So we know that this particular community, which is like there were 6 skeletons, which belongs to very different community, and these particular skeletal remains belongs to different community. As a mortuary practice, if you study mortuary practices also, or the funerary practices, they are also completely different. Here you will get the fragments of teeth, fragments of in a very fragmented, because whatever is remaining after the consumption by birds and other thing were pushed back to which was clean, put back to that central well. Here we are having the primary burial in this. So obviously the mortuary practice is different, so that we can understand these particular populations were also different from each other. This is a megalithic burial from southern part of India, where this is known as cyst burial, where you can see there are like the cyst stone which they are being erected and create kind of a box like a coffin, and inside that there are secondary burials, or sometimes there are primary burials. So this is the one primary burial, and secondary burial means you will have 2-3 individuals or one individual, and the bones are not kept in a proper anatomical position, but they will be haphazard, they will be very fragmented, or they will be uh, not every element of the body is represented here. That is a criteria why we call it as a primary burial, and why we do not call it a primary burial. Primary burial means where every element is present in that burial, and secondary burial means like they are having, like for example, they will be having some kind of a selection criteria, maybe some skulls, or whether they're long bones, or so small bones generally like hand bones or the carpal bones or tarsal bones, like they will be not present in that collection. So that is, we call it, when that is the condition, then we call it as a secondary burial. This particular burial is called as a crane circle, which is found in southern part, as well as mainly found in eastern part of Maharashtra. So here the boulders are big boulders, like megalithic, like as you say, mega means big, lithic means stone. So big boulders are kept in the circular way pattern, and this particular crane is filled with the small pebbles. Okay. In this, sometime you get primary burial at the end of the strata, or sometime you get these kind of a cremated bones. So these are the secondary bones. So we know that on the basis of these cracking patterns and the color of the bone, we know that these bones were cremated, coming from the cremated context. Like they might be cremated, and they have selected few bones and they have buried, or they were kept in this crane. So in certain time, in many times you get uh, cremated bones at various points, okay, within the crane. So it's not like only this crane circle is only having one uh, pot with cremated bones. There will be several pots in that megalithic where you are having these kind of a cremated bones. Unfortunately, we cannot say that these fragments are, if I found like 3-4 places, these pots, I cannot be very certain that one pot, bones from one pot to another pot, they are related, because they are very tiny. If you see the scale here, they are hardly 5 cm. These are the biggest one. There are small ones are like half centimeter, or there are, so it is becomes very difficult. And for DNA, it is not possible as they are cremated. So you cannot do the DNA analysis of the cremated bones. So these are the certain problems we encounter while studying. So we here, what we do is we sometimes just count the bones and then we move on. So it is a problem. These are the people when we consider the development of subject of bioarchaeology or skeletal anthropology or osteoarchaeology. Uh, these are the people who actually established this thing in India. So Professor Iravati Karve, she was the first anthropologist who was in Deccan College, and she first took the studies of human skeletal remains from Langnaj, and her student, now Professor K.C. Malhotra, he studied on certain bones. Dr. Kennedy, Professor Kennedy, and Dr. Lucas, so both of them, they worked on skeletal collection or skeletal findings from India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Kennedy helped to establish the discipline in India, and he started training people for this work. And his student, Professor Lucas, John Lucas, he studied the human skeletal remains from Inamgaon and India, Pakistan, and other areas. And then he collaborated with Professor Walimbe, who established the anthropology lab in Deccan College in 1980s. Today, he's the kind of, like, he was a person who actually started working independently on the human skeletal remains. And this is the only lab in India which is working on human skeletal remains. Earlier, Anthropological Survey of India was the agency who were working with the human skeletal remains. But unfortunately, after 1970s, there is no physical anthropologists who are working in this discipline. They are having highest number of human burials or human skeletal remains from India, but still, unfortunately, it is not being studied, or they are not contributing, they are not coming forward or asking us to collaborate with them for doing the analysis. So this is a very unfortunate thing. But a fortunate thing is that Deccan College Lab is still working. Today I'm holding the in chargeship of this particular lab, and we are working on various skeletal remains from coming from the southern part, like Kodumanal, then Kondagai, which is very much from the Tamil Nadu. Kondagai, which is very celebrated sites from Tamil Nadu. So we are working from that to the northern, like I excavated the site from Yogma Kharbu in Ladakh. That is a cave site. So from there, from north to south to east to west, we are trying to work on many various skeletal remains, and we are proud that myself and my students, they are working and continuing the work which was started with Professor Iravati Karve. So this is really interesting subject if you see. So what is the importance of the human skeletal remains? So there are when we find human skeletal remains, there are two ways we can interpret the human skeletal remains. So one is called as a physical aspect, and one is called as a cultural aspect. So when we call it a physical aspect, there is like what is the biological age of that individual, like whether it's a young, middle-aged, or old adult, or whether it's an infant or it's a stillborn to a young child, early child, adolescent, like what is the exact biological age of that skeleton. We try to identify the sex of the individual as well, because these two criteria talks about the demography. Sex, we do sexing of the individual above 15, because the development of that skeletal development related to sex is not completed around like before 15. So we try to diagnostic areas which are developed after 15, 16 years. So we try to see in sex determination about 16 or so. So age, and on that basis, we try to identify the demography of that population. But here also there is a problem, because if you are having 2-3 skeletal remains, you cannot do this demography, because it is not an exact number of individual, or it's not an exact representation of the population. The burials, when we find, we have to consider that a very important fact, that when we find burials, that is not a complete representation of the society, because not every society or every culture had a one way of disposing the dead. There are several various other ways of disposing the dead. So when we are finding burial which shows that some portion of the society was doing these kind of a burial practices, rest of them were doing some other practices as well. So when we talk about demography, if you are having good number of skeleton, maybe 30 or 35, then we can go ahead with the demography. If I find 2-3 skeletons, I cannot talk or I cannot discuss about the demographic profiling of that population. Then we do the morphological, as the morphology means skeletal morphology or teeth, how it is looking. Phenotype and genotype. Phenotype means how our skull is or our body is. Okay, so we try to understand the morphology because morphological features are more genetically controlled. So we try to find these morphological features and try to identify which population is closer to, that is called as, we call it as a population affinity, like which population is closer to. So we can do the intersite comparison or with comparison with other sites also. Okay, so that way we can try to identify. When we talk about the paleo diet, as I told you, like tartar, which is stuck in your teeth, or the food particles, we try to do chemical analysis of that and try to understand the paleo diet, as well as we give samples for isotope analysis to understand the paleo diet. Then coming to the pathology, obviously ancient diseases which are recorded on the bones. So generally bones, they record the episodes of disease when they are in chronic in nature. They are like, if you are only and only when there is a like trauma or cut mark, or like where the bone is been what you can say, bone is affected, only then. But otherwise every problem what you see in human skeleton, they are chronic in nature. They are for the prolonged period of time, the body is suffering from some infection or some kind of a infection or some kind of a nutritional problem. So only then the pathological indications can be identified on bones. And through all this, we try to understand the general health of the individual. And if you are having good number of skeletal remains, then we can identify about the population. So we try to do on the both the aspects. So here coming to the cultural aspect, so how the burial is been made, like whether it is haphazardly done, it is whether properly done, whether they have been put any burial goods or what offerings they have been given to the burial or given to that particular individual. Like for example, if any very important person is buried, so they will have the society or that particular family will take every care to put in arrange the proper burial with lot of antiquities like gold or silver or copper at that time, like in Chalcolithic copper was also very important, or in megalithic iron implements were given to the burial. So these how the burials are being kept, how the goods are being there, how uh, any socio-economic or political status of that particular individual is reflected in the burial practices. Um, how different burials are been you can see in the cemetery, like some burials with lot of antiquities, lot of other pots and other offerings, and few are maybe with minimum of offerings, like as a token. So can we identify or can we try to get some information about its socio-economic status and how the society in general dealt with the death? I always say to everyone that death is extremely important in any given society than the birth. Birth you celebrate for a few maybe days and then you forget, but death, when somebody dies in your family, you go on kind of having rituals every year. So it is very important aspect of your social behavior, your individual behavior. So this is very important how society overall is treating this particular death and the dead person as well. With that, can we identify the existence of the medical knowledge? Like if you find some trauma or some fractures are being healed or some infections are being healed, can we identify the medical knowledge was available for, like Neanderthal also, Neanderthal tartar or Neanderthal teeth also had a medicinal plant, evidence of the medicinal plant in that. So it is, that is very important. So whether they knew about it and how they incorporated that knowledge into their everyday life, and all these can tell you about their cognitive aspect, where they can, how they were thinking, what they were thinking. And this is, we can try to understand that. It is not every time it is possible, because it also depends on the kind of preservation, if preservation is there in that. So it is very difficult to it is very difficult, sorry, it is very difficult to get every information every time, but these are the things what we are seeing on this slide. We try everything on the burial if we find the skeletal remains, and then we put it as a holistic studies. And there is something called as a biocultural studies. Okay, so the biocultural studies is a scientific exploration of the relationship between the human biology and culture. As I told you, like it's a ongoing process, like biology and culture, how they are. So and we need to understand, incorporate these aspects, okay, into the skeletal studies, because otherwise we will just dealing with just, we will be just talking about these are the skeletal remains are been found, these are the things are been found, and that's it. We will be not talking many things beyond that. Okay, but our concern is we are trying to understand the human remains in the cultural context. So how the Chalcolithic population was behaving, or how the Chalcolithic population was interacting with each other, or megalithic population or early medieval population. So for that we need to understand the culture, and then we try to see the skeletal remains from that. So this is known as a biocultural aspect of the analysis. So uh, our analysis is based on, first is the survival of the bone, the how, the whether it's a primary burial, whether it's a secondary burial. If it is a primary burial, it is always good because we get good number of bones to study and understand the particular individual. If it is a secondary, our observations are extremely limited. Then the soil in which these burials are being put. So the soil, there are different types of soils. Okay, One is acidic, alkaline in nature. Sometimes there are waterlogging issues, like the some soils kind of keep the water. They do not drain out the water easily, so that becomes waterlogging problems. So bones damages further. Okay, so all these things, the conditions of the soil. Then there are rodent activity, root activity, and other thing, like these are the cases, like like that damages our what damages the bone, and then eventually limits our analysis. So these are the certain things. What is the excavation process? What is the objective of the skeleton? What is the objective of the excavation? Whether the excavators are aware of the kind of work is done on the skeleton, what is the potential of the skeletal remains, and what is the efficiency also. Like many times what happens is excavators are not well trained, and they don't want the skeletons should be there, because it's a very, once you find a skeleton, it takes all your efforts, all your energy, all your things. At least for 3 days you are blocked. So many excavators do not like this, so they ignore these findings, or sometimes they haphazardly excavate, or they do not do proper recording of the skeleton. So what is the excavation process? Then the field treatment, how the field treatment is given to the skeleton, like whether it is been labeled properly, numbered properly, because as I told you, like we study the burial and its cultural context. We do not study the bones only. So we should have some information about how the burial was laid, where it was, what kind of material was around it, what kind of soil it was having, and how they transported it to anthropology lab or to us, like because all it depends. In any stage, if it has a problem, then eventually it will reflect in the report. So we had this problem, like in one site we got bones, everything, but we did not had the context, because the context was lost by the archaeologists, and we just gave them the inventory and pathology and everything what we did, but we could not interpret in terms of culture. So actually it's a not a very complete report, but whatever we had, we could do that much only. So it's a problem when we do not have the cultural context or the photography or proper documentation with it. Then if the research interest and awareness of the excavator, it is almost similar like excavation process, like whether really excavator wants that to happen. So if that excavator does not want, then nothing can be done. So they just pick up and they dump the bones at some other places, and then you don't have any control over that material or that studies. And the availability of the anthropological expertise. So the anthropological expertise may not be possible every time, because we are having very few trained anthropologists or osteobiologists or bioarchaeologists in India. Very few of us are there. So it is very difficult for us to go every side and talk to people, like so we need to train more students if it is required that. So these there are certain limitation of our studies, like representativeness of our preserved specimens. So we do not have every individual present in that. So the inadequate sample size is a problem. Then not every part is preserved for every specimen. So when we want to do inter-site comparison or site comparisons, then we are having very limited parameters for that. So, and which creates a problem, and we are having the inadequate. So as I told you, like we are hardly 60 skeletal series are being studied in India. So we are having very few skeletal and literary database for our comparison. So these are the certain limitations of our analysis. The next is the laboratory analysis. So what, once the skeleton reaches us, safely and with all documentation, photography and everything. What are the things what we do? So I just brief you in little bit. So we do this unpacking, cleaning and restoration, identification of the parts and which side it belongs. If it is a long bone, short, the hand bones, feet bones, cranium, or all these things. So we try to identify this. Then we prepare the inventory. Like for one skeleton, what are the things are present for this? Or we try to, as I told you, like biological age. What is the age, sex, demography? Most of the things I have talked about it. Like what is the stature estimation? I did not tell you about that. If we are having the long bone, so we do there are formulas available for calculating the stature of the individual. So we put our bone length and we say that, if, for example, if my humerus is 30 centimeters, so what is as a female, what should be the my height? So that formulas are there. So I have to put those numbers and then I have to calculate that. So the stature estimation, the reason behind it, like with agriculture, with the less nutrients, because we shifted from non-vegetarian to carbohydrate based diet, our stature reduced considerably. Can we see these kind of trends in the human population, in the archaeological human population? Then what is the assessment of sexual dimorphism? Like how robust were the males, how gracile were the females? So we try to see that kind of a uh, observation in that skeleton. So intersite comparison, we through the with the what you can say, on morphological basis we can do genetic relationship, paleopathological assessment. Cause of death is generally not possible. Hardly one or two places we can say this could be a cause of death, but we cannot be sure. Most of the time we cannot go beyond like saying that this particular individual was older, this what was the age. And as I told you about the adaptation to the climate, culture, diet, occupation, and try to understand with all these things, we try to understand this. And biocultural interpretations can be provided for the analysis. So the next is like, I'm just giving you a few idea about what are the things we studied from the, and what are the skeletal remains from the eastern part of India, mainly West Bengal and Odisha. So these are the sites which given the skeletal remains, like Dihar in district Bankura, or Balupur, Panduraja Dibi, or Haraipur, or Laljal, Damdam Mount, and Raj Bandi Danga. This is from the West Bengal. Out of that, I have studied Dihar and Balupur. Most of these sites are not been studied. And from Orissa, obviously, Deolga Hills is there, Harirajpur and Deltihuda. These all three sites are being studied by anthropological analysis thanks to the excavators. Uh, uh, so, uh, so I will just give you some information about each site, and it is interesting. So it was, this is from the Deolga Hills and Department of History, uh, Sambalpur University, here by P.K. Behra. He excavated this site, and this is very interesting. Only one skeletal remains were found in the cave, and this is very interesting. This belongs to the female, which is hardly the 3 to 4 feet, 4 feet tall. Okay, tiny individual. And this is, if you see, this is the humerus, and this is a 10 centimeter. So it is very tiny. She is 4 feet, not a very tall individual. We could not do, as you can see, that this is a 5 centimeter. So you can see it is very tiny. This particular bones, these are. So it's a really and they were found in an improper anatomical means orientation. So it was not a proper skeleton kept in the grave, but and we could not identify exact sex of that individual. And she was around probably female, and around 25 to 30-year-old female was there. Then this is the what we identify. This is the maxilla. Here morphological features. What we see here, morphological features. So morphological features you can see as having foramina, and this is maxillary dentition, and this is mandibular dentition. So this is a kind of this vertebral fusion. This is a lumbar vertebra, means your vertebra, lower end of the vertebral column. They are most likely fused because uh, it could be congenital disorder also. This is a tartar accumulation, what I was talking to you, like teeth are, having this kind of a thought. Then there is a Harirajpur. This is one of the very excavated site in 2012 and 13 and 13-14 by Deccan College and Utkal no, not Utkal University, Bhubaneswar. And this is a skeletal material was found. So this is one skeleton, another skeleton, and there are all three. One is male, one is female, and there is one 6 to 7 months old child was also found along with the infant. Actually, it is infant was found in this particular grave. So it was quite very interesting, and we had workshop. We have created one workshop to train students on working on the skeletal remains. And interestingly, this particular skeletal remains had there is a kind of a chopping marks on the lower extremity, where in the Chalcolithic period they said that they used to cut the feet of the of the individual, so that the uh, the person will not come back to this settlement. So we could identify these kind of chopping marks on the tibia or the lower leg. And then this is a very very interesting case of healed trauma or healed injury. So these are the two bones actually what they are affected. So the mid portion, somebody was, that person might have fallen down, or somebody has fallen down on that particular area, and it got joined, we heal in a very unappropriate way. Actually, if you in modern days, if you see, when the fracture is happened, the doctor puts them in proper this way, and then the plaster is been put to immobilize the joint, immobilize the bone, and then the bone heals. But in this way, the if the person was hurt or had some broken this arm, but they might have just put the plaster or something like that and kept it, so that it got joined, it got healed, but in a very uh, different manner. And this is the X-ray of it, where it was actually identified how it has been healed. So a very interesting case of trauma was found from Harirajpur. Then this is the child, which is the skeleton number 2. So you can see it's a very young individual. This is the one. And this is the another female, where you are having this adult female. The next is the Deltihuda. This was done by the Department of Ravenshaw University in 2014. Umakant Mishra, Dr. Umakant Mishra, he excavated this site. They have found two skeletons from two places. This is from the pot burial. I have not studied the material from this pot, but this particular individual, this half preserved, it was found in the bog actually of the excavation. So which is of a male 25 to 30-year-old. And so this is also very interesting finding. So this is the jaw, and this is the skeleton is kept in the Ravenshaw College in Archaeology and in the department. So if you are interested, anyone can go and see that. And it has found the infection, caries infection on the teeth, and this is the mandible. So this is a material from Orissa. Then coming to the West Bengal, so I have studied this skeleton from Dihar, from district Bankura, human skeletal. It was sitting in posture, but because of the decomposition, it went down, like it just went down, and the vertebral column must have just collapsed, and the skull was kept. So it was almost completely preserved individual is found with, and this is Rupendra Chattopadhyay. He did the excavation, and he called me to study the skeletal remains. So this is the before restoration, before the cleaning, and this is after cleaning. So some features are clear here, and here you can see extreme wear on the teeth, like the teeth are being worn. Here also there is some kind of a fracture or some twisting of the arm. You can see this is again the same, this one, it's twisted, so you can see this muscle impression here. This is very, very interesting. Again, I have not seen it like this, but this is some kind of twisting. This is the other side of the radius, but the it's a right side and left side. Left side has a very weird way of morphology. This is not the normal. This is the normal morphology. This seems to have some. Unfortunately, I could not do the X-ray of it, but it could have, beneficial to do the X-ray and get more information about it. Then this is excavated by Dr. Sheena Panja from Shanti Niketan University in West Bengal. There total 14 specimens were found, or individuals were found. And out of that, 5 were, so this is the cemetery. And there were 5 subadult categories. And so, 4 are below 3 years. So very young individuals to older individuals. So these are just to give you some information. Again, there is a fracture here in the radius and dental tartar accumulation. And this is also very interesting pathology. It is a mandibular fossa, like where your mandible, this is your lower jaw or the mandible, where actually when there is a stress on the jaw, it actually affects your, this is where your condyle articulates with your skull. So it is arthritic lesion. This is known as a temporomandibular joint, and it can tell you about some issues related to the heavy chewing of the individual, or some kind of a pressure which is being created. So temporomandibular joint is really interesting for an interpretation. Or this is known as a antemortem tooth loss, means that the tooth is already lost before death. So that is why it is called as an antemortem. Or the arthritic lesions like vertebral arthritis, like spondylosis or arthritic lesions, all these things. Similar, this kind of found in Balupur. Or this is known as a costoclavicular, where the clavicle here, when you are doing repeated activity and very strenuous activity, this particular joint gets affected. So that is also found with Balupur. This is just to give you what are the things. So this is district Birbhum in. So this was A. Ghosh mentioned these burials belongs to the Chalcolithic phase. So around 2000, 3000 BC, around that time. And no studies are been given. So you can see there were skeletal remains, and which was excavated in 1964-65. So you do not have any analysis, or we do not know where these bones are, and not been studied. Again, the same thing with the Laljal and Damdam Mound or Rajbadi Danga. Here also the skeletal remains are not been studied, or we are not aware of where these remains are. So points here is, in Orissa there are 3 sites gives human remains, out of 2 belong to Neolithic, Chalcolithic around 2000 BC, and 1 from the late Mesolithic. The preservation of the material is far from satisfaction, because they have, like for example, Delti Huda, where the partial skeleton is been found. For West Bengal, only one belongs to early historic, that is the this one, Dihar, and then 17th century is Balupur. So again, that is a problem. Like we very few and not much skeletal evidence are from Eastern India. Therefore, it is difficult to say about the population level from this region. So we know that we can discuss only individual basis and from the related to only once that particular site, but we cannot have the larger data to understand the population from Eastern India. So that is one of the limitations of this analysis or these findings, but we need to do a lot more things from Eastern India and try to understand the population, past population with this. There are a lot of other things also, the occupational stress markers, which are very important. So like these kind of activities can lead to the skeletal modification because it gives a lot of stress to your skeleton. So these things, how we can understand these activities in the past population can be one of the, that is known as a occupation stress mark. So what are the things we can do in the future? So this is a very good example, like how we are using as our, like for example, when the, if you see the old like in the pre-medieval or medieval time, where while making the bamboo, they used to hold the bamboo strips, or they used to use these teeth to strip the bamboo. So teeth as a third hand. So we sometime you get some stresses to use of teeth in a, as a different way other than the chewing. So what are the things, what things leads to skeletal modification is also very interesting. The prospects for the future. And there are, again, there are like a lot of historians, lot of these who works on Indian literature. They can help us to understand the pathological mentions or some disease mentions in these Vedic literature, Samhita, Ayurveda and Puranas. Like there are stories like even in the Jataka stories also, like they have mentioned that the person was suffering from certain disease, that person went to Buddha and then he got kind of salvation and other thing. So these information can be extracted from the Vedic, like Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda talks about magical as well as some remedies given by, with the plant use and other things. We can extract these information through this literature. So it is a really interesting, and where people can help us to understand or to recognize these. Some medicines are mentioned, some, like if there is some issues with the health, how it is being treated at that particular time is very important, because these literatures are very much contemporary with the Chalcolithic, uh, from Chalcolithic onwards. So it gives some idea, some interpretations about these societies into that literature. So we should have some, we should get some idea about what problems the society was like, especially the disease, and how they were treating, how they were coping with it. So these literature can give us about the literature. And thank you. This is what I do, and please tell me any questions or ask me questions.
Thank you, Veena madam. It was really very lucidly described presentation and very informative. There are a lot many things that I came to know about it. I'm sure our audience would be willing to ask questions and also make comments. We already have Dr. Atul Kumar Pradhan and Jitu Mishra among the audience. And I will request Prita madam to handle the question and answer session. Prita madam?
Sure, Sunil sir. First of all, thank you, Veena madam, and I would request you to close your sharing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted. So, that was a wonderful and very enlightening talk. I'm pretty sure everyone would have learned something new today. I have personally a couple of questions and queries for you, but before that, let's go to our audience. As Sunil sir was saying, today we have Dr. Atul Pradhan. So, Atul sir, if you're there, let me see if sir is still here in the call.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Yeah, Atul sir, please go ahead, sir.
Madam, namaste. How are you?
Yes. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Fine, ma'am. Thank you, madam, for your lecture. Actually, I'm out of the station actually on the road.
Okay.
Madam, today we discussed about you, Umagantaji and myself, at GM
Okay.
University.
Okay.
Okay, madam, it is nice lecture actually. And so far as the skeleton remains of Bong, Harirajpur, and then Deulga for Redakul. Now myself and Godnaik working in this field. Actually, recently we excavated this site actually again.
Okay.
In Redakul. So, madam, actually, I have some queries. Madam, what demographic profile, emerged from the skeletal assemblage at Devluga, Delti Hulda, and Bong? Uh, how do, generative joint, digits and activity related to stress marker? Suppose, when we discuss about the Delti Huda bones, teeth, the digits, you have
Hmm.
already told. What related stress marker reflect a difference in the substance, strategy across these regions of Odisha. Then another is, what, stable isotope data, reveal about the dietary pattern among the individuals from these sites. And another importance, ma'am, actually, what I suppose when we see the, orientation of the burials,
Hmm.
how does the, taphonomic condition of the remains reflect the local burial environment and ritual practice? So this is only my, maximum. Suppose nowadays, when we practice this type of burial practice, generally the orientation north to south.
Hmm.
Then this is, that's why I have some query that how does the, taphonomic condition of the remains reflect the local burial environment and ritual practice? This is my queries, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So the isotope analysis we have not done on any of the skeletal remains from Orissa till now. So we will not able to talk about this. We should give some samples for isotope analysis. So that is one thing. Taphonomical, obviously Harirajpur only three, and demography, as I told you, like it's a problem. Like only three skeletons are being found from there, Harirajpur, and one from Deltihura and one from Deolga Hills. So it is very hard to talk about demography. And uh, unfortunately, the skeletal elements other than the Harirajpur not so complete. In the sense, Harirajpur also has only three skeletons. Out of that, one is child. Child means infant. So one male, one female. So on that basis, how we can talk about the demography. So all questions are good, but it is very difficult to answer because
Madam,
it.
ma'am,
Uh,
actually, then another, so far as dental pathology. Suppose
huh.
can dental pathology supply us the information to sit in agricultural inspection or the practice at the site?
Again, see, the Delti Huda has one dental caries. So obviously, based on only one dental caries, it is very difficult. And Harirajpur has attrition. So dental caries are not, as I remember, not dental caries are not been found. Uh, so only based on one tooth caries, it is very difficult. But
Yes.
it's very difficult to say about whether they have changed their food. Means from Mesolithic or to any like kind of. We need to do some analysis. Means the Tartar analysis or something to understand the change in the diet. So, as the problem with Orissa and West Bengal is the limitation of data. Until otherwise we have good data, or if until otherwise we are having at least 10-15 skeletons from one site,
Yes,
it's
right.
will be very difficult to say anything about it. So it will be too much of too much of interpretation unnecessarily. It will create a problem in the sense it is not a good work actually. It will be done.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Sorry. Sorry,
No,
Thank
sorry.
you.
I
madam.
could not
No, no, no.
answer your questions any
No,
of
no,
the
no,
in
ma'am.
a
No, ma'am.
positive manner.
Today we are
Thank you,
discussing.
Atul sir.
Actually,
Thank you for your.
I am I was sharing this information to Umakant sir. today itself.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
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 Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining, Atul sir, a long time after you have joined, and thank you for your interaction with Veena madam. So, to keep the momentum going, next I had seen Jitu Mishra sir's camera on just when the Q&A was starting. If Jitu Mishra sir, if you are available, you can speak about your query. Or then Sudhakar Patri sir was raising his hand, and I see Sarojini madam's video on. So we'll take serially like that. Jitu Mishra sir, then Sudhakar Patri sir, and then Sarojini madam.
Hi, Veena, after a long time.
Uh, Yes, yes. Hi, Jitu. How are you? कैसे
I'm
हो?
okay, fine. Good, good, good. So finally you made it, huh?
Yeah. Finally made
Okay,
it.
okay, okay, okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a very good session. Partly I found it a little technical, but I think yeah, it was very good and very informative for all of us who are not archaeologists. Uh, See, one thing, one historical problem Odisha has actually, we have been talking that Odisha and Southeast Asia had a very long relationship, even going back to Neolithic time, because we have other archaeological evidence such as cord impressed pottery and God impressed pottery and solid X. So these are the indicators of Odisha Southeast Asia relationship. Probably through land route or through sea route that we don't know. Even Golbai, there is another site which was excavated in
Hmm.
1980s where they have also found skeletal remains. Of course,
Hmm.
the skull was chopped. I think it was missing. So that also comes in the same region, all within 30 40 kilometers of radius, Harirajpur, Golbai, and all these sites. So, can we, of course, you said that demographically we cannot say anything because the data is so limited, so we cannot say anything about demography. But I think Paul Yule, when excavated Sanketjang, he has indicated that the tooth remains, of course, 800 BC site at Sanketjang, that show some similarities with the Southeast Asian recent stocks. So I was wondering if we could, throw some light using human skeletal remains, uh, Odisha and Southeast Asia or Northeast India, is any migration pattern or something. So that's what I wanted to know if can happen in future, not maybe not now, but in future if it can happen. This your study.
Yeah, it will be useful if we do the DNA analysis or isotope analysis, and if we see collaborate that data with the Southeast Asian population or their
Mhm,
skeletal data, we will come to know the migration because it is very much documented from the historic point of view or the medieval time onwards. So definitely it
mhm,
will go back to earlier days, but uh, for that we need to even Jitu, we there can be a good study of some there might be some genetic study which might have done this on the present
mhm,
population on
mhm,
Southeast Asia, which might tell you about this migratory, because if there are some people gone from there or they have come here, there will be some
mhm,
genetic admission at some level
mhm,
at some point. Okay,
mhm,
so
mhm,
even the present population will also give that data. I haven't checked right now, telling you very true, means that I have
mhm,
not checked the present population.
mhm,
But that way also we can have another way of looking. And not necessarily we should have skeletal data for an ancient DNA data from ancient DNA data, but from
mhm.
present data also we can go back and see whether there is some genetic admission. So it is very much
Like the
possible.
Mundari speaking community, Odisha has a sizable population of Mundari speaking community, especially in the Chotnagpur plateau. And
Hmm.
Mundari is actually a part of Mon-Khmer group of language, no?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Austroasiatic. So yeah, linguistically also we have some kind of similarities, and some anthropologists have thrown light on this. So this is what I think it would be a very interesting study, like considering the
Hmm.
present day community as well, and then drawing parallel from the archaeological study what has been done so far.
because the genetic admixture, you can say that how far it goes in history. Like you can, there is a kind of a genetic clock through that which you can be going back, and then we can see maybe some 30 generations or 40 generations there was some admixtures. So it is possible very much, and might be some studies might have been done, but means I have not explored that area, so I can't say but for sure. But it is possible. It is possible.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Veena.
Yeah,
Thank,
yeah. Nice seeing
thank you
you,
so much.
Jitu.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you so much for that very, very interesting question and the answer, madam. Sudhakar Patri sir next, Sarojini madam next, and then Maganjit Kaur madam after that. Patri sir.
Thank you. Actually, my opinion is the sample is very small, and
Yes.
it is normal because Hindu population in Odisha mostly they burn it as per the culture. The body is burnt after death, so normally they don't have any. Normally, bodies will not be available in the only. So that's why it is very difficult to say. And I think this the analysis. What was the period of this uh, dead bodies, the skeletons? How old are they?
Skeletons,
Was there any studies
they
done
are
in that
somewhere
way?
around, yeah,
Huh?
they are somewhere around 2000 BC, means somewhere around 4000 years back. The thing is, sir, even like around 600 BC onwards, most of them had this Brahmanical culture, so Brahmanical religion. So they started doing mainly cremation, as you said. But there were few communities which were contemporary communities. They were having burial practices like today. Like there are some people who practice burial, some people do the cremation, some people do another way of disposing of the dead. Similarly, ancient times also the same thing was happening. So
Uh-huh.
uh, so it could be possible, and we need more excavations, sir.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the Orissa doesn't have many excavations, and not many skeletal remains. So once we should have that.
Thank
Okay.
you,
Thank you,
madam.
Maya.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. Actually, partially two of my questions already got discussed, but again, anyway, we will go back to it. Like Jitu Mishra
Yes.
sir and Sudhakar Patri sir took care of partially those questions. But Sarojini madam, you are next, and then Maganjit Kaur madam, please. Madam, Sarojini madam, ଆପଣ ପ୍ରଥମେ ଟିକେ can you please unmute?
Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, thank you so much for so nice presentation. I want to know two things. First, how the cause of death can be diagnosed from the skeleton, and second, how population is calculated.
Okay. So the cause of death is based on some kind of a chopping marks or some kind of a unhealed trauma or unhealed injury. Unhealed means because if it is not healed means that person died probably, like very few times we can identify, or some kind of a very infections, like for example leprosy or tuberculosis, or these trichomonas infection like syphilis. Then we can identify that this person probably died because of that pathology, or that because of certain things. But this is very, like, out of 100 hardly 100 out of uh, out of, like, only I could identify only one or two cases that I can tell that this person died because of this particular problem. But most of the time we cannot say. Most of means 99.99 point we cannot say that the person, why that person died. And your second question was
How population can be calculated?
how population. It is based on, like, for example, If there are 30, 35 in skeletal remains, then we can see the size of the site and the foundation of the houses and then the calculation population in one house, how much was the how many people can live, and out of that we can calculate how many people might have lived in uh, that particular village. So it's approximately, like for example, sometimes we say that there are, like, if there are 10 to 15 houses we find, so we generally say 4 to 5 people, they are staying in that house, one house, and then we calculate it accordingly. Like, that is how the population size has been calculated on the size and the density of the structures which are being found.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for those nice questions, Sarojini madam, and thank you, Veena madam, for answering. Maganjit Kaur ma'am, if you have any questions or anything, please go ahead.
Well, I was actually very fascinated. First, I must apologize for my. I'm not looking. I seem not to be looking directly at the camera, but that's because I have a big screen connected to my laptop, so I'm looking at the big screen and the computer is looking somewhere else. I was actually very fascinated that for primary burials, there's so many different types of primary burials. In Malaysia, we only have two types, which is flex burials for the Paleolithic period and straight burials for the Neolithic period. So I was really interested in knowing whether there was any connection between the different population groups for the different burial types. But I know from the discussion that's not possible to find out at this point. The other thing, hearing all the other questions, I think Jitu sir raised the point that pottery, that there is a link between pottery from India and Southeast Asia. He mentioned something like that just now. So I was wondering whether that is in mainland Southeast Asia or island Southeast Asia.
Okay. I think so. Jitu should answer that because I'm not
Yeah,
very
I'm so
good at
sorry. I'm
pottery.
Yeah,
really
I think
sorry because
it is mainland Southeast Asia, ma'am. I
okay, so
think
Burma, Thailand,
Myanmar, yeah, Cambodia, Myanmar, and all. And I think through land route only, you also have found in Northeast India, in Assam. So God
okay,
impressed pottery,
Assam.
God
So
impressed
that's
pottery, yes.
Yeah, so there seems to be a connection, and it'd be really interesting if we could find a link between the populations. But it seems like right now with the skeletons, it's not possible, right? I mean, if based on what Mina has mentioned, so
Yeah,
hopefully,
it is not possible, but maybe ancient DNA analysis can tell us something from Southeast Asia. Maybe
yeah,
not from India, because India, if we are like Indians, like people from Orissa have traveled to Southeast Asia, so there will be more DNA remains of Indian population or Oriya population in Southeast Asia. So DNA analysis can be done there.
Yeah, and I heard of in Bali they had I think it was around the 10th century CE that they found DNA and they linked it to Northeast India. So,
Yeah.
but I think there's only very, very little of that.
And I think so there is a lot of studies are being done by glass beads and other thing, like the trade from Orissa to this Vietnam and other places. Dr. Belina, she works with Southeast Asia and India, that trade route. And she's been talking a lot about this connections between trade, at least the
Yeah.
trade networks between these. So it is also one way of looking at it.
Yeah, correct. But I was also wondering if there's any possibility of Southeast Asians coming into India rather than the other way.
Oh,
You know, that too, could they have also brought I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay,
They might
anyway.
have, because it is
Yeah.
not going to be like one way traffic. It will be like, it will be two way. So
Yeah.
definitely there will be some elements of Southeast Asian in Orissa. So Orissa, or the eastern part of India mainly, eastern part,
Yeah.
because the trade was continuous, like from the historical period or before that also. So obviously there will be
There would be.
admixture. Definitely,
Mm,
definitely.
okay.
So only ways is to find out how to find out.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much for that very interesting presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maganjit ma'am. Can I
Thank
request
you.
you to look to your, maybe if you look towards your left, you would be actually looking at us. There you go.
Yeah, but
Ma'am.
it's a blank screen for me. I can't see anything on that screen.
No,
It's
just for a
blank.
moment we could see you properly when you looked
There you
like to your
go.
left.
Next
Thank
time
you.
I'll change the settings so that I'm facing I can face the screen.
No, the profile is good too, but then uh, like just making it
Okay.
light, lighter moment. Thank
Yeah.
you again for your
Thank you.
interaction.
Thank you.
Um, I don't see anybody else's hands raised right now. Can I ask my questions? Otherwise, all my questions will already be discussed. I think someone or other
Yeah,
is
you
taking.
can.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Thank you, Veena madam. That was very enlightening, but as Jitu sir just mentioned, also very technical. Like unless somebody has the real, the qualification
I'm
or background
sorry.
of it. No, 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 that's absolutely okay. Like that's as Sunil sir was telling you before the talk started, these things are more of curations from our part, that we are trying to audiovisually curate for future, jigyasus, or for students or people who are interested in such topics. So it's not just for a general common thing. It is common, but also it is specialized. So thank you
Okay.
for this beautiful talk. um, I'll repeat few of my queries which were going on in my head, although they have been partially answered by you or mostly answered. My first question was going on when Sudhakar Patri sir asked the similar question, that the thing with bioarchaeology is like study of skeletons. But in the Indian subcontinent, because of a very wide range of populace with different types of customs and traditions, and it's not just a 1,000-year-old history. It's like we can't even put our hands to the time till since when our indigenous people have been here. So because of all that, there have been a mixture of post-death practices like funerary practices. Many of those are cremation, and some are burials, some like dolmens you can find. There are so many different type of things. So, in our more recent history, when we try to understand the aspects about India's civilizational linkages with other parts of the world, the tradition has become more Jain, Buddhist, and the different sects of what we call Hindu now tradition, where cremation is a big thing. Of course, in Buddhism and Jainism also, the Tirthankaras or the Buddhas or the masters, they also took like samadhi, as we say, even in Hindu masters like Ramanujam and all. And those are untouchable. Like we can't touch those things for studies. But in common masses, in common population, cremation was one of the most widely used, funerary practice as far as we see in Indian subcontinent, except the indigenous population, the First Nation people, like the what we call as tribal groups. In many tribal groups, we will still find burials and other such practices. And they are actually the connection with everywhere. The tribes are the ones who had connections before even like 4,000 years back with each other. And as Madam Maganjit was asking, I think Nusantara also has, Nusantara means the traditional Indonesia as we call it, the island parts of Southeast Asia. I think although there archaeologically or pottery or bead type of things might not be there, but linguistic evidence and other things in culture and tradition can be still found, which is also a very great intangible proof. So my first question was related to how do you really find out about our people when there might be a limitation of bones available. My second question, all these are related, so you can take it up together. My second question was about the genetic studies, as you have already discussed. Like, apart from bioarchaeology, I feel the need of the hour is multi-dimensional genetic studies between the eastern coast of India, mainly Kalinga, ancient Kalinga, and it is not just present day Odisha or part of West Bengal, but a major part of present day Andhra Pradesh also. So the ancient Kalinga region people were known to the people of Southeast Asia. They called entire India as Kaling, right? So the genetic studies from this entire belt, although it has become different states now, plus genetic studies from the hinterlands, because a lot of traders also came from the hinterlands, or people who worked on the boitas or bahitras came from the hinterlands. So it's a very big study which has to be done. I personally have reached out to a lot, Dr. Neeraj Rai is a big name in right now in genetic this thing. I spoke to him, and but this is not just a work of one person or one agency. I think that needs to be a very large, ongoing, multidimensional, multilateral, what do you call, the collaboration from both all these sides together, and mitochondrial DNA studies and all that, because many of the northeastern side are matrilineal type of cultures. So these two were my main questions, which were already partially asked. So I'll add one little question later on, but I'll let you talk. I have already talked a lot.
No. You have already talked with Neeraj. So he worked on modern. So basically, so the problem with archaeological data is the DNA is not surviving. But that is the main thing with India. And secondly, they are very fragmented. As everybody knows that we like, other than very few communities, most of us do the cremation. So our data gets limited from the 600 BC. Very few, and that too the sites which have been excavated or which have been known for as a burial site, they are from very particular community. We know that. Okay. So the best way to find out the mixture of Indian population, because again, as I told you in the beginning, like India is multilingual, multicultural, multi-layer population. It's not one population or anything. So it is very difficult from only find, as you said that very rightly, from ancient DNA or only through skeleton. It has to be multidiscipline approach. So the only thing is we need to do the DNA analysis of the modern day population. That will be helpful to understand the population. Again, when the Neeraj do that kind of analysis, it's mainly he talks about haplogroups or other areas and other things. So again, as a India is such a huge population and such a intermix. Again, that groups are kind of a broad categorization of the population. So we need to do lot more things, but I believe that the modern DNA should be considered for what the kind of analysis we want to do. Like, for example, you are talking about Kalinga, but Kalinga as a whole, as Andhra and other things. Again, or even the Kaur madam was telling that it has to be dealt with from the modern DNA context, not from the ancient. It is not possible as I understand rightly, it is not possible for the population which needs to be. Archaeological population will support the data, but it cannot be a kind of it cannot lead the data. Leading of the data will be mainly from the modern day population.
Thank you, madam.
Unfortunately, because the data is so minimal.
Hmm. Thank you. I have one extra question along with that, but before that, uh, as we know, yatha pinde tatha brahmande, that thing, no, when we talk about us and the universe, I feel we can extrapolate that into what is in us right now. We are the carriers or the markers, or we carry the clues to our past. We ourselves, our language, our traditions. So we ourselves should be the, the clue to everything that has gone before us. My other question was again specifically archaeological, like bioarchaeological. Um, when you study skeletons, madam, is it possible to find from, like, if there are like intact skeletons or skeletons of major bones, like the femur or the humerus part of the thing, to know which type of like from ancient skeletons, I mean, to know what type of activities they were more involved in, like a person who would be working in a boat or a ship would have a certain type of like the changes in, like, over a period of time, that particular jati would have a certain type of adaptations in their body system. And earlier, because of these clans and jati systems, people like did their occupation related to their this thing. So suppose somebody would be like have a more coastal life rather than a more mountain life, or so there should be some markers or demarcations from their skeletal remains. Do you ever find that, or is there a way to know
Okay.
about that?
Okay, one thing is, see, we can do the isotope analysis or trace element analysis if we from the bones to understand their diet. Like if there are some studies have been done, if the your diet is mainly based on marine sources or from meat beast based or some vegetarian based, like plant based, not vegetarian, it's a wrong word, but a plant based food. So that trace element analysis can be done. So that way we can understand like whether it's a marine based or anything like that. Second, your question is about the occupation related markers. So there are certain markers which tells us about that this individual was probably doing this kind of. For example, we had done one of my student, actually not me, one of my student had done work on the skeletal population from Mesolithic and comparison with the agriculture based population, because like Chalcolithic is more of a agriculture based population and Mesolithic is mainly the hunter gatherers community. So we found that there are different dimensions of the bones, because in Mesolithic you have to run, you have to do a lot of activity on the lower part of your body, and when you're doing your agriculture, you're mainly based on, you're doing a lot of activity of the upper part of your body. So the dimension change, so we can identify. So as I told you, the culture matters a lot. We need to understand the skeleton comes from which cultural practices. Okay, so that way we could identify these populations, how they are change, how their skeletons are working. For example, there are certain markers which can tell us that uh, these were the riders, kind of horse riders or any rider. I don't want to say horse because it can create issue, but they were riding something. There are potters who sits and do certain activities. So there are certain sockets in the tibia. It creates like probably they were busy in doing this kind of activity. So there are certain markers which can tell about it, but then you should have a good preservation and good database. Then we can tell about it. But it is possible. Certain ways we can deal with that.
The source of my query for this is, like, can we solve like certain legends of in Odisha's history that is not known much, like known in the sense like data based rather than more Madala Panji based we have. For example, the chapter of Jabana Raktabahu, when he attacked Puri and took over the land, and it seems the Jabana rule was there for so many years after that. So since it is a Jabana who attacked, So the burial practices might have been non-crematory. So maybe, and this is a more recent time from our history, like after the Christian era. So if we find like a burial things related to that, and they came via sea, so there might have been the type of coastal, like the activity which sailors do or fighters and sailors do. So because if we find something like that in the future, maybe we can actually corroborate certain legends like that which are preserved in our Madala Panji, but we have not found the real data points for that in archaeology. So
Oh, yeah,
that
we
was
can
my
do that.
basis for,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, trace
Thank you.
element analysis can be done. Very
Thank
much
you
done.
so much for patiently hearing me out. I had a lot of questions. I'm sorry
No,
I took a lot
no,
of
it
your
was
time.
good. It was good. It was good. I hope
Anyone
I
else?
answered your some of the
Yes,
questions.
yes. Thank you, madam. You are all doing the actual groundwork, like a lot of work which goes into answering such questions which we read in books only. We are not doing the real groundwork anyway. But thank you so much. Anyone else has any questions or anything to ask or communicate? I see Sunil sir's video on. Sir, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to tell that tomorrow, along with link for this particular recording, I'll also send the link for the Jabana Raktabahu episode to Bina Madam. That is what I
Okay,
was
okay,
able to
fine.
tell.
Okay, great, great,
Madam,
great.
madam.
Ah, yes, Dr. Atul.
Okay, madam. Actually, you rightly said. I mean, only a few skeletal remains have been recovered through formal excavations, which make it difficult to study them in detail or reconstruct the clear picture of our ancient past. But, madam, in Odisha, many skeletal remains are discovered accidentally. But in Cuttack, when a railway track was going on or any accidental discovery, many skeletal remains are found, but they don't receive the same attention and care as other archaeological findings. Therefore, it is important to conduct awareness programs similar to those we organize for archaeological sites and archaeological remains, other forms of tangible heritage, to ensure that such discoveries are properly recognized, protected, or reported. I think because
Yes,
in
yes, madam.
yes, madam. Because recently, when I visited to my native place near Bhubaneswar and in Cuttack area, madam, a railway track, a new railway track was constructed, and many skeletal remains are found in the Chalcolithic site in Cuttack, Tangi area. So I think
Yes.
we should very care about it actually.
Yeah, but then where are those skeletons then?
In Cuttack, Tangi, a place named Tangi in
No,
Cuttack.
no, no. Where they after excavation, where they kept it?
No excavation. It accidentally discovered by the railway track actually. Uh,
No, no, that I understood. But after taking out those remains, where they are? They have been thrown or
Madam,
where they have been?
when we visit the place, they just destroyed all skeletal remains.
Oh,
Yes.
that's sad. That is very
Yes.
sad. That is extremely sad. Umakant knows that about it. Umakant
Yes.
Mishra.
Umakant and Onam Behra actually took the attention. Onam Behra for Utkal University Archaeology Department. Uh, uh, Actually, he informed me to
Oh,
from the site. Then when we visited the site, actually when we reached the site, all the skull remains are damaged, severely damaged.
okay.
Moreover,
That's sad
nowadays,
actually.
nowadays when they excavate, they use machineries. So
Yeah.
uh, archaeological finding requires a skilled excavation. So when you use machines
Yes.
to savagely uproot things, so there is no chance of any skeletal remains being made available for scientific studies. Atul sir, it is really painful to know about such ghastly act being done by the construction people because they were not
Yes.
aware actually.
Yes.
We
Mm.
also need to make agenda when any construction work is done. The concerned engineer in charge should have some sense of history to
Yes.
prevent accidentally damaging such precious uh, treasure. I mean specimens.
Clues. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's sad. Maybe next time.
Mm.
Maybe next time, Dr. Atul.
Madam, Madam, I also wondered, like, dolmens, like how, like, do you find more dolmens in Odisha, like from the very ancient periods? Like, we don't see many dolmen
No, no,
sites in
no, no,
Odisha
no.
as we
Dolmens are seen in only in the southern, mainly in the
southern.
southern part of
Yeah,
southern
like how
part of.
come, like that always like mystified, like surprised me because Odisha also has quite a lot of ancient cultures who have lived here, like indigenous tribes
Yes,
and all. So why don't we see like them? There must be then very strong demarcation in the cultural practices then, right? For
probably because there are a lot of groups, now, tribal groups, which were living. So every group has a different way of disposing, or kind of having memorial stones or something like related to the dead.
right.
Right. So probably different types of practices were going on, and
In
not
fact, in
necessarily
rural,
the thing is again the availability of the natural resources. If there are stones available easily, you
yeah.
will go for that. So it was mainly available in the southern, like in Orissa. I don't think so. There are such a large stones are easily available. I don't know.
Karnataka, I have noticed like a lot of things in and in Odisha, you must be aware, like in our culture, in rural areas, you'd find samadhi in the billow
Ah.
itself, in the fields, agricultural fields of our elders. Like you'll create that samadhi and put the like asti
Mm-hmm.
or some remain
Mm-hmm.
there.
But maximum samadhis are secondary burial actually, madam, in
Agya,
Yes.
agya, agya,
Odisha.
agya. Nesea coach, and those are so sacred, like tapu sites, like how
Yes,
in
yes,
Pacific Islander term, like nobody would even dare
Yeah.
to touch
yes,
that.
yes, yes.
So,
And moreover, since
so
they will contain cremated remains, any bone, so it would be of no value for forensic information.
Mhm.
Right, ma'am?
Maximum the cremated bones are little
Yes,
difficult to do the analysis. Little difficult, obviously, but yeah.
it has been a very, very interesting and enlightening talk today. Like really, we have enjoyed all this,
Thank
all
you.
the questions and everything. We see Sanjay Bhai has joined after quite a long time. Sanjay Bhai, do you have anything to say? Kichi kahibe? Our founding members, Sanjay Kumar Boral, and always in the background doing a lot.
Sanjay?
Ringo sir, Dr. Ringo sir, would you like to say something to Veena madam?
Yeah, sure. This is very interesting. Recently, the archaeologists found in Malaysia, north part of Malaysia, that they found the Buddhist stupas, So, is there any related thing towards the Kalinga?
Stupa is there, but I don't think so it is related to. I don't know how culturally it is very much related to it,
I
but
see.
I uh, I don't know about skeletal. I can't say. But
Very few
obviously,
bone relics are discovered from Lalitgiri Buddhist sites to pods. Only the relics only.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And not they have not yet been studied, or they will not be
Yes,
allowed to be
yes,
studied.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
There is Mr. Guna from Malaysia. I think Mr. Guna, are you interested to make any comment or ask any questions?
Brother Guna, are you around?
Okay. So
Sir, Sunil sir, back to you now. I thank again Veena madam and back to you,
thank you
Sunil
so
sir, for
much. Thank you.
just give me 1 minute. Shall we wind up today's program? Okay. Thank you everyone for being present and taking this today's winner to such a scholarly engagement. Thanks, Dr. Veena Mushrif Tripathy, for you gave us time and gave us a beautiful, educative, and enlightening presentation, and also patiently answering all the queries raised by our esteemed audience. Thank you.